Peace, one love, namaste, God bless. So, let's talk about the entities. When I talk about the entities, I'm talking about masculinity and femininity, and we'll get into talking about what toxic masculinity is. Alright, but first, let's go back to masculinity and femininity and what those are. Those are the genders. They're not the sex, but they are the genders. This is a Hermetic principle. The Hermetic gender principle: men embody the masculine, women embody the feminine. And that's how it goes. The feminine goes down the spine, the masculine goes up the spine. Masculine is the will, feminine creates upon the will of the masculine. So, in that, it's like the feminine, since the feminine creates upon the will of the masculine, it comes down to the feminine submitting to the will of the masculine and creating upon the will. So, when masculinity, being that's coming up the spine, and young men, they're really just trying to get, they're at a very low chakra level, and more like the sexual chakras. That's what they're thinking about when they're in their teenagers and young 20s. They're just thinking about creating upon the will of their sexual chakra. That's where they're at mentally. As you get a little older, it starts to climb naturally. It's going to climb up. Now, the feminine is coming down the spine. And so this creates a developed mind, developed throat chakra, developed heart. And now true feminism is that love in the heart, and a woman thinks from love in the heart and speaks from love in the heart. And men love feminine women for that reason. Because the bridge at the solar plexus is that bridge. That's where the woman's going to descend down the spine to submit to the masculine. Feminine descends down the spine to submit to the masculine. The men, after they get that submission, and let's say they create a child and a family, and now the man has something to build and work for, and it's gonna force his mind, or force him to think from his heart and speak proper and think better for his family. You can't just go around cussing, spitting, not giving, you gotta be holistic after you cross that bridge. And you gotta be about these feminine principles. These are the higher spiritual values. In the Sacred Secret video, it talks about that, how the solar plexus, otherwise known as Bethlehem. Now, interestingly enough, that's Bethlehem. That's where the Christ is born. Christ consciousness. Alright? That's where that's born. It's going to your heart, and you're speaking, thinking, and the ascension of that Christ is ultimately what leads you to God. You know what I'm saying? So, think about that. But anyway, I digress off of the subject of the entities. So, the masculine nature, it's a building force and a protective force, and the feminine gives a purpose. It gives a reason to build and protect. Other than that, it just, a man would just be doing his normal guy thing, only doing him. But to have a female brings the femininity that he needs to ascend to the higher chakra values of the heart and to speak better on behalf of his child. Because, if you have a kid, do what you want, but I know from my experience that after you have one, you don't want to cuss around them. You don't want to think such a way that would negatively affect their development. So you speak better and you think better on behalf of their development. That's just what you do. So that's what the feminine brings to the table of, the unity with the masculine. They build together. They ascend together. And, so after the feminine descends down the spine, submits, and then the masculine and feminine ascend together up the spine. So when people talk about spiritual ascension, that's what that is. They ascend together and they move up to God together. They follow the Christ oil, Christos, or simply the Christ up the spine, follows to God. All right. That's not talking about religion at all. That's just what it's called. The Christ oil, the Christos. But I digress again. So anyway, that's masculine. That's the masculinity and the femininity. So those two go together. But now let's put that aside. We understand what that is. Let's talk about what toxic masculinity is. All right. Toxic masculinity. You will see this a lot in governments, where the governments may hopefully don't hopefully they're 1,000% honest and I don't know what I'm talking about, but hopefully what they are doing is being completely honest to their people, because it's, you can almost look at it like the government would be the masculine and society, their people, citizens, would be the feminine principle. And so now, if you're toxic masculine, if I was a toxic masculine governmental body, what I would want to do is lie to the people, to manipulate them, to act in my favor. Be like, we need to go to war with these people, so I'm gonna create a lie of propaganda to hype everybody up to be against this country that my country is beefing with. And it's not right. It's not right. It's totally toxic masculine. And in the family unit, and I feel sorry for anybody who has a toxic masculine male being the will of a family unit, because that is not good. Not good, it's dangerous. So, toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity is a man, let's say a man was a toxic masculine male. He's telling the woman what to do, lying to her to get what he wants. Or it could be a toxic masculine female. Those exist. And they will lie and they will manipulate, and it becomes about their fulfillment. And I can understand that maybe they feel compromised to do that because they are masculine, and so they have to be toxic about it to get what they need out of a male, because men don't want to submit. They don't want to be feminine about it. They want to be masculine about their being. So one of a female may have to lie to get the submission that she is looking for, because being that if she's masculine, she needs a feminine to create upon the will of her being. And so she might have to say, hey, she might have to say, hey, here's the lie that makes you want to submit to the will of my masculinity. It's kind of messed up, but I mean, that's what toxic masculinity is. And it's bad from both sides. It's more dangerous if it's a toxic masculine male because they're physically stronger than a woman is, and that can be dangerous. So you should always stay away from that. Everyone should stay away from that. But it's I mean, aside from that, you know, a masculine female may be undesirable but tolerable, I guess. A toxic masculine female is not tolerable and very undesirable, and you know, so everybody needs to stay away from toxic masculinity. It exists in men and it exists in women. It exists in everybody, but we need femininity. And you know, femininity is actually the leading force, because that's what's going to lead a family to higher spiritual value, is a strong feminine woman. That's what it is. That's what it does for a family unit. Anyway, hope that's understood. Anything else I want to say? Let me think about it. Hey man, y'all be safe though. Y'all be safe. Actually, you know what? Let me close with this. Both genders, both the masculine needs the feminine needs the masculine. The man needs the female needs the man. They do different things for each other, but really it's like the feminine is actually the higher spiritual value. It is what's going to lead a family to a more holistic value altogether. It's going to make them whole and spiritual. And yeah, my neighbor's coming around the corner. Makes me forget what I'm talking about. But yeah. Hey man, peace, one love, and I'm gonna say God bless. That's my take on masculinity, femininity, toxic masculinity. Those are the entities. Alright. Hope that's well understood. And I think about covered everything. Alright, peace, one love, and I'm gonna say God bless. We'll see y'all in the next.